Okay. Welcome everybody. How is everybody tonight? Tonight we're working at it again, the stick control book. I come up with a, I think, pretty cool exercise for linear concepts. Let's get a couple terms correct first. The term linear means a straight line, only one voice at a time. If I was to play 4 quarter notes on the snare drum, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. I just played a linear line of quarter notes. No two voices are hitting at the same time. I can mix up the voices like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I played a different variety of voices there, but straight quarter notes. So what we're going to do, for those who don't know what the grid is, we're going to work with the grid using the stick control book as a linear concept. Now, the grid gets a little, not confusing, but the term grid means to move over one in the 16th note pulse. So, you can refer to it as permutate, okay? But let's talk as moving it over one. So, for example, if I took the first line of stick control book, how you doing, Mike? If I took the first line of stick control book, it's presented as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, I just played a linear line there, a linear line of eighth notes 2 times. Now, what we're going to do, instead of interpreting the stick control book as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we're going to interpret that as 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. That's the interpretation. Now we're going to apply the grid. The grid means to move over one. Before we move anything over, let me explain a good method for you to practice the grid. Okay? If I'm counting 16th notes and I want to accent on the first note on the downbeat would be 1, E, and the. Now I'm going to move over the accent on the second downbeat. So it would be 2, E, and the. And then I go to the third downbeat, I move the accent over one more count, which would be the and of 3. 3, E, and the. Then I go to 4, and I'm moving the accent over one more, so it's going to be on the da of 4. So I have 4, E, and da. So if I'm going to count constant 16th notes, and I'm just going to clap out the movement of the grid, moving it over. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and back. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and So I just moved the accent, or I'm playing the grid. I'm moving it over each downbeat one count. So if I'm playing 16ths, 1, E, and watch. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and 1. Do we understand that? That's the grid. Now, you have the PDFs, or if you don't have the PDFs and you would like the PDFs for this lesson, this is the part 1 of the lesson. We're going to be doing 30-second notes in the next lesson, but right now we're working on 16ths. If you don't have the PDFs and you would like the PDFs, you need to email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. And the guys who are here, you understand it, right, Mike? Here's my email. Hold on. That's my email. If you want the PDFs, you don't have them, just email me and I'll send them to you. Just request them. And the name of the lesson is Linear Concepts Utilizing the Stick Control Book. Now, let's get to the lesson. We already went over the grid, the interpretation. And let's go to line 1. And at line 1, there's 5 parts on the PDF. The first part is every time we're going to practice right now just playing the first part of the grid on the downbeat. So if I played the first part, anytime I'm going to play the grid, whether the sticking pattern is a right, I'm going to use my bass drum. If it's a left, I'm going to use my hi-hat. Now, if you play double beaters or double bass drums, instead of using the hi-hat, you can use the double beaters. I prefer an additional voice. Okay? So now, we're going to do line 1, and we're going to do the downbeat. The sticking pattern is 1, E, and da. So now, on the count of 1, it's a right. So we're going to have 1, E, and now 2. 2, E, and da. 3, E, and da. 4, E, and da. Now, I'm not going to play these fast. I'm trying to explain very slowly so everyone understands. The people who are viewing the lesson right now are all at a different level. So let's do it at a tempo where everyone could understand. All right, maybe, Wednesday I'm going to play these up a little bit with a pattern, a rock pattern or something, and I'll show you how these maneuver around the drum set. I'm only contained tonight on 3 voices, my bass drum, my hi-hat, and my snare. So let's do line 1. We'll start off at a nice tempo. 1, E, and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So on and so forth. We'll take it up tempo come Wednesday. Now, we're still on the same line, but this time we're going to move the part of the grid to the E instead of the downbeat. So on 1 E and da, you have 1. Now you're going to have E and da. Okay, then you have 2 E. That's a left. And that's be right. And da. 3 E and da. 4. Do we understand how that flows or how you're going to work that? So that takes care of the 2 parts of the grid. We go to the third part of the grid, which is now we're going to move it over to the and. Now this time, with that sequence of sticking, 1 and 2 and 3, 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 and the 4 E and the, on all the ands, it's the right. So we're going to have 1 E and da, 2 E and da, 3 E and da, 4 E and da. You got it. Okay, Mike. Whoever else is watching, I hope they have it. Feel free to ask questions, gentlemen or ladies, and get into the chat. Say hello. Say something. Say, Matt, you suck. Or something. Whatever. Now we're on the da. So, I'm not using a metronome tonight. I'm just explaining. But Wednesday comes Wednesday. We're going to play these on the metronome at a variety of tempos. Now we're on the da. So now if you look at the sticking pattern, on the da, the left falls. So that's going to equal the hi-hat. You have 1 E and da. Now, that's the 4 parts of the grid. Now, you play each one, line 1, 1A, I think it is, 1B, C, D, and feel good about it. It's a little unusual because you're interpreting something from the stick control book. Now, the thing that you want to do, if you look at the last line, it is the grid. All right, so we have I'm going to do it slow. 1, E, and the 2, E, and the 3, E, and the 4, E, and the. Now you want to find yourself a tempo. You want to put a number on the metronome or the click track or whatever you practice with. How you doing, Mr. Ed? And Michael, we're going to meet sometime next month in Quincy, I guess, and we're going to go on a Thursday to the Zildjian. So here's what I would do, and this is what I highly recommend. You do the first line. That's the bass drum on 1. That's the downbeat. It's going to be the bass drum on 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to shift it over to the second line to all the E's with the hi-hat. Then the next line is to all the ands with the bass drum. Then the duh is with all the hi-hat. So once you feel good with that, challenge yourself and play the grid. Okay? So you do the last line over and over again and find yourself a tempo. Now, I was going to present 30-second notes tonight. And 30-second notes, I'm not belittling or someone's level here, but I want to make this lesson clear. So if I throw the 30-second notes in here, it's a little confusing. Some lines work, but there's some lines when, for example, we're going to use doubles for 30-second notes, but sometimes when you have doubles like line 3 and 4, you're going to have to use singles so it falls out. That's why I didn't want to get into it. I'll explain. I'll do a little sample first of line 1 in 30 seconds. By using the grid on the 1, you're going 1 E and the 2, 3 E and the 4 E and the. So if I was to use 30 seconds, here I can use doubles. Hold on. So I'm going to have 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 E and the 4. Find yourself a tempo. And this is why I'm not doing it for line 5, for example, line 5. I'm going to have line 5, if I do the first part of the grid, the sticking is 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And if I was to do doubles there, it would be 1 E. Now I'm going to have to use singles. 3, I'm going to have 1 E and 2 E and. You see, it gets a little confusing, so I don't want to go there tonight. Let's just stay with the 16th note pulse, the interpretation of the stick control book, the greatest book ever written, period. You guys like this lesson? Ed, Mike, and whoever else? All 9,000 people who are watching or will watch? There's some very interesting things that are going to be happening with this particular concept. Now, I'm going to skip line 2, and I'm going to go to line 3. All right, and like I said before, I'm containing this on 3 voices, the bass drum, the snare, and the hi-hat right now. So if we went to line 3, remember now we're on the grid. So we're going to do the first line. This is the 3rd page on the PDF, I believe. So we're going to have 1, E, and the, 2, E, and the, 3, E, and the, 4, E, and the. Again, I'm not moving it around. Now we go to the second part of the grid, which is the E. It's going to be 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and the next part of the grid is on the ands, which is the left. So you're going to have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Do we understand that, gentlemen? It's an unusual lesson tonight, all from the stick control book. You know, I watch other teachers on YouTube, and there's some really good ones, really good. And that's about 5% of 100%. And what I see the audience that they have, and they're always performing as opposed to teaching. My teaching, and it's not really, I don't know, people, you know, they say because it's being played so slow and broken down the way it is, you know, they don't want to deal with that. They want instant success. It takes hard work, and it's a developmental process. All right, I'm going to do line 5, okay? Or you want me to do, or we did the does now, I guess. Now we're on the duh of line 3. That would be 1 E and duh, 2 E and duh, 3 E and duh, 4 E and duh. We understand that, right? How the system works. It's a good system. It's going to bring a lot of ideas. I'm, like I said, containing it on the 3 voices tonight. But you can move them around. I gave you a key for the snare drum, the small tom, the floor tom number 1, and floor tom number 2. Most people today have 2 small toms and 1 floor. So you can, if you have the 2 toms, you can use the second tom as the second small tom as the first floor, and then the second floor. Okay? We understand that, and that's where the next lesson is going to be presented. I don't really like a big kit. I mean, I have a big kit. I could set this up and be not Terry Bozzio, but maybe 3 small toms, 2 floors, 2 bass drums, and 9,000 cymbals. With that, you really can't miss, because all you have to do is throw the stick and try to catch it, and somebody thinks you're playing something outrageous. And that reminds me, I did tell Terry Bozzio one time, I went to see him in clinic. The guy is fantastic, very creative, and he's just on another planet. And he's setting up his drums with his roadie, and I went over to him and said, listen, I could play better than you. He looked at me like I was some sort of strange person. I said, all I have to do is throw the stick at your drum set and try to catch it, and everybody thinks I'm playing something crazy. He laughed and he understood I was just joking. But man, Terry Bozzio is just on another planet. Great, great drummer. Okay. Mike, what is your setup? I mean, with the toms. How many toms do you have? And Ed, how many toms do you have? Now, I'm going to be working on the 30-second notes Wednesday. Do we have any questions on any line up to line 5? I figure, well, if you understand the system, after line 5, you're on your own, unless you prefer me to write out 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. It's a lot of writing, man. A lot of time. And we're going to start. You have 4 toms. You have 2 racks, 2 floors. There you go. I'm not going to put up another rack. I call it small, wing, whatever you want to call it. I like to play with one small tom and 2 floors. That gives me a lot of, I mean, I could put up the other toms, but I don't really like it. I mean, I usually like to play a jazz gig with just 4 drums. Playing through the 4. Anyway, that's what I like to do. Everybody's different. Whatever works for you, works for you. Okay? 2 racks, 2 floors. I'm only going to write it out for 1 rack and 2 floors, so you can move it around. You can make up your own combinations if you understand the, system. Okay? Now, starting in a couple of weeks, I'm going to start doing some revisiting of things that we've already done. You know, I've tried not to repeat the lessons, but after a while, man, there's just a lot to do. And there's some new people coming, and they haven't seen the other lessons. That's the way you got to do it, Ed. It's too hot to pick up all those drums. Unless you're doing a concert and you have a roadie. Okay, anyway. What would help me out is if, like I said, we're going to do some revisiting or we're going to take some requests. So if you are not certain of things that we've done in the past, we'll do them again upon request. How's that sound, gentlemen? Or if you would like to have something new, we'll do that again. And we'll do it new. I can't even talk tonight, it's so hot. But, you know, there's, I said I have tons and tons of ways to do the stick control book. But if I'm doing 2, 3 lessons, 4 lessons a week, it gets too overwhelming and you're actually losing the benefit of it. And it's like something like we're doing tonight is something you need to practice constantly until you get it going on. And by Wednesday, you'll see what I'm talking about. You know, if you're only going to do this for a half an hour tonight and miss Tuesday and we're going to go to Wednesday, you know, it's not, you're not getting the advantage. You have to practice 8, 10 hours a day. Just kidding. If you can, God bless you, man. That's a great thing. Okay. Are there any questions on tonight? Do you like this kind of concept? Talk to me, gentlemen. You understand line 1 through 5. Is there something you don't understand? I'll revisit that. I hate this delay. There's like a 4 or 5 second delay in the response. You all understand what this concept is? There's a lot of linear things happening with George Lawrence Stone. You're good. I'm not closing up. I mean, I have a couple more minutes. I'm only allotted a half hour on YouTube. That's why I kind of extend the lessons on Tuesday and Thursday rather. But it's hot, and I'm going to try to only do 2 lessons on Monday and Wednesday for the remainder of the summer. And I think that's a good idea because it gives everyone else time to absorb what they've learned. Like I said, requests are accepted. And revisiting something, and there's nothing, you could email me. You have my email, you could suggest what you would like, and I will not, if you feel a little bit embarrassed, I will not mention the names. I'll just say, one of the students requested this. It's simple. So you like it, Ed? You like it, Mike? Okay. Now, I've been having some problems with the playback on YouTube. This afternoon was okay. The playback was in sync. But the last 2 or 3 times, see, they record this, and the last 2 or 3 times, it wasn't in sync. So it really got me upset. So this is going to be, it's being recorded now, and it's going to process, and it'll be on the channel. Now, if it comes back on the channel at a sync, I will make an additional video for this lesson, and I will post it on YouTube. How's that sound, gentlemen? Any questions? Anybody wants the PDFs, email me. Matt Patella, 1001@gmail.com. Got it, gentlemen? With that being said, I'm going to have some dinner. I'm going to have a smoke, then some dinner. Okay, good. We're all good. Great, good. Okay. I guess they mean the same thing. Okay, gentlemen. No questions, no problems. And please email me if you want, request something for me to revisit, or you want to learn something that I haven't taught yet. And if I could help, no problem. Okay? Have a good night. We'll see everybody Wednesday, 1 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. And I hope you're feeling better, Michael. You're welcome, Mike. Oh, mercy. This old age shit's got to stop. Hey, you're welcome, Ed. Okay, so we understand what we got to do now, right? Have a good night. See everybody Wednesday, 1 p.m.